Hey lads, welcome back to another NRL Fantasy Fanatics video. Tonight we've just got a short one for you. We got the two Vegas team lists, as always, joined by Will and a new guest. We got John Hosking. How are you, mate?
Hey guys, yeah, pretty good, thanks.
Yeah, that's good to hear. So without further ado, let's get into it. We'll start from the Raiders. Will, do you want to take us away for this one?
Yeah, the Raiders look quite good. First of all, let's talk about one of John's very close fans of Zach Hosking, his cousin.
Well done, John. Good on
Yeah,
you, mate.
he's a gun, Zach Hosky. Big fan of him. Personally, I've captained him this week. I see him playing around 60 minutes. He could play 80 though.
Yeah,
And
there is a bit of upside to him. That's the
yeah, on
that's
the
the good
narrow
thing.
field, he is a defensive orientated player. So I do see him getting big points.
Yeah, I do agree. I also own Hosking, and I'm gonna continue to own him unless he gets injured again. But we'll
Yeah.
go through the Raiders weeks. Not really fantasy relevant anymore, unfortunately. Just a bit too expensive. Tamale, one who we've been talking up, and we sort of forgot about Albert Hopewade, who is having a child, and will most likely be back next week. So Tamale may be a steer clear or see if he continues to keep the spot. Two standards for Raiders, bit of an avoid. Savage as well. Ethan Strange, once again, a cheapie last year, but too expensive now. Jamal Fogarty, who we mentioned in our pod video. Do you still own Fogarty, Will, or you moved past him?
Yeah, I've moved past Fogarty. I just didn't like having that much cash moved to my halves, and I thought Luke Metcalf could do a job. I do think Jamal will score quite well with quite a good base, but yeah, I think that Cleary is a must have, and you can't really anti-pod Cleary, so I've gone with Luke Metcalf in that half.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Moving on, Corey Horsburgh, one again, Will. You've been talking up all year, titling our videos in the name of Corey. But yeah, getting the eight roll and should get some good minutes, 45 to 50 we're predicting. And if he does, he can easily average 50 points with a fair bit of value to be made. Have you got Corey in your team, Will or John?
Oh yeah, I have Corey on my team right now as my vice captain. I think yeah, Corey looks really good. I've been talking about him all preseason, and yeah, just for me, Corey, we saw that he averages quite well while playing big minutes at lock or prop. And I think if he can get those big minutes with that bench of Papali, who's aging, Joseph Tarpany, who is probably a 55-minute player, and then Simi Sasangi and Ataya Marioto, who are not massive bodies or massive minutes, I think, yeah, Big Red, Corey the Horse could be on for 55 to 60 minutes where he could very easily average 50 to 55 minutes, 50 to 55 points, and yeah, have a fair bit of value in him. So yeah, I'm really keen on him.
Yeah. The only competition he has is Josh Papali, but he's getting very old and he's not as fit as he used to be. I can see him getting max 30 minutes, which is great for Corey. Moving on, number nine, we've got Starling, who we did also have in our pod video. But pending now that Owen Paddy is in the 14 role, I think you got to steer clear of him, as Paddy should get 20 to 30 minutes and leave Starling on about 40 to 50, which, look, it's probably enough for Starling, but not enough to justify having him, I don't reckon. Number 10, Joey Tarpanay, one I know you're a big fan of, John. Do you have any interest in him this year?
Yeah, I've looked at him. If you're getting him, he's locked in your team for the year, as he's always a consistent. Well, he's not really a consistent player, but he's got a consistent average year by year because he'll get big scores and little scores. He can have a few quiet games, but overall, I still rate him as a player. I don't think his minutes will change much, though. I don't see much value in him.
Yeah, I do agree. I feel like he's just a little bit too expensive when you could just upgrade a little bit to get Isaiah Yo or even Payne Haas, who we know is a little bit better than Tarpanay, one of the best props in the game, Payne Haas. 11, Hudson Young. Yeah, not any interest in Hudson Young. But number 12, one who I am very interested in, Zach Hosking, who we mentioned before, 580K, I think. Absolute gun at the edge, as we've seen before. Will or John, any interest in Hosking? There should be. Don't all speak at once, guys.
Yeah, I do like I do like Zach. I think he's one player that in 60 minutes can average 50 minutes, 50 points, and if he scores yeah, if he gets that 80 minutes, he could definitely score 65 points and have a fair bit of value. Does come with a bit of a risk, as we know that calves are easy to do again, but no Matty Nicholson and no big minute players or proven edges on the bench. He could definitely get 80 minutes, and I think Zach would be an absolute steal at 80 minutes.
Yeah, I agree. 583k, you can't really pass up on him there. Morgan Smithies, yeah, not looking at Morgan. Interchange for the Raiders, not too much jumping out at me. Pending Owen Paddy, he's big in favour in the Raiders, so hopefully he can snag 40 minutes or maybe even 50 if Starling gets out of favour, and
Yeah,
then
I've
he'd
heard
be
he's a
considered an
gun.
option. What's that, sorry?
I've heard he's meant to be a gun.
Yeah, exactly. The Raiders love him too. He might even in a few weeks steal that starting spot over Starling. If so, he should be an option. But at the moment, I just can't justify having him. Sasagi, Papali, Mariota, not too much to say there. Just steer clear of them. Moving on to the Warriors, Nickel Klukstad, one who I don't really see as an option in your teams. A little, not enough value to be made. I just don't think he's as fantasy relevant as some of the other wing fullbacks that we have. We're no short supply of them. Tane Taupiki on the wing for a bottom eight team in the Warriors. Also don't have any interest in him. Ali Tour, 500k. I feel like he's awkwardly priced. Would you agree with that, Will?
Yeah, it definitely is. I have no interest in Ali at all. You have any interest in him, John?
Oh, absolutely not. I don't see
Yeah,
much value in a mid-range
yeah,
center at that price when there's better options.
exactly. Speaking of mid-range centers, Adam Pompey, absolutely no chance in my team. Number five, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck would be great if he was playing fullback or even center. Probably he's better on the wing than the centers, but even if he was playing fullback, you could have him. But on the wing, look, I just can't see it with the amount of wing fullbacks we have in fantasy that are much better than him. Harris Tavita, one I'd probably steer clear of. But number seven, Luke Metcalf, one who is in my team and in a lot of people's teams. So keen on him. He facilitates that Warriors attack. And Will, I'm pretty sure you have him as well.
Yeah, I love Coffee this year. Coffee, I mean, he's got a massive 38 average at 5'8", which break even at 33, which means 5 points of value. But I predict Coffee to go up considering he has a goal kicking and should do all in play kicking now. And he's probably got a better running game than Sean Johnson. And look how well Sean Johnson scored there. So if he can do well, I think Coffee could average anywhere from 50 to 55.
Yeah, I do agree. I think he should be in everyone's team now that he's got seven. His only competition I thought was Tamari Martin, but he's on the reserves, so he's got the spot now, and hopefully he shouldn't lose it. And Tamari Martin will replace Harris Tavita instead of Metcalf. So we'll move on. Fisher Harris, one who I'm not keen on at the moment. I feel like it's a wait and see for him. But someone who is keen on him is John. What are your thoughts on Fisher Harris, John?
Yeah, well, captain of the Kiwis, captain of the Warriors, like there is a lot of pressure on his shoulders with the departure of Adam Fanua-Blake. I think he'll fill that role nicely. I do see him getting over 50 minutes, but he could also get under. You're taking a small risk getting him, but he is a consistent
Yeah,
scorer.
exactly. Um, yeah, I'm not too interested in Fisher Harris. You just wait and see the first game. If he gels with the team and gets over 50, that'd be great. Then you can consider picking him up. But at the moment, not too interested in him with the amount of mids in fantasy, like we've mentioned. Number nine, Wade Egan, one who's very injury prone. I'd personally steer clear of him. I'd either go for a gun or a cheapie in the hooker section, as the mids don't impress me too much. Mitch Barnett, one who I've seen in a few teams. I feel like he's a little expensive. What about you, Will?
Yeah, I've never liked Mitch. I didn't like him last year. I don't like him this year. I don't think I like him the year after or in another 5 years or another 10 years. I just don't really rate Mitch as a fantasy option or yeah, anything to do with that dual position there. But while Mitch is at what he's priced at, why wouldn't you go for a Horsburgh or a Terrell May or a Hopgood or a Yo, who I have all as better options than him, and all you need to get to them is about 150k, or you just go down. I don't see him being a keeper, but someone I do like a lot more than Mitch Barnett, who we'll talk about in the other team list, is Cameron McInnes if you have Mitch Barnett for a downgrade.
11 and 12. Kurt Capewell and Nick Ora, really not fantasy relevant, unfortunately. Good players, but just not fantasy relevant. So we'll move on. 13, Aaron Clark, one who I wasn't predicting to start 13, but it's good he is. I feel all he needs is about 45 to 50 minutes to average 40 plus points. Do you personally, John, do you have Aaron Clark in your team and are you keen on him?
I don't currently have Aaron Clark. I did have him, but he's on my watch list. I am keen on
Yeah,
him.
that's for sure. What about you, Will?
Yeah, I'm super keen on Aaron. I think as John mentioned in one of the other videos that Aaron was going to play at the hooker position too because there's no hookers there. And I think if that's the case, he'll probably get 35 maybe at lock and then go on for Wade and play another 25 to 30 minutes. Could even come on at the prop, as I don't think Dimitri and Lecker will be massive minute players. And yeah, who knows where Jackson Ford's going to play. But another thing for me is Wade's injury prone. Let's say Aaron gets 55 the first game. Next game, he could start first 30 at hooker at 13 and then move to hooker after Wade gets a concussion or something. So yeah, I'm pretty big on
Yeah, that's right.
Aaron. Not much to lose, and we all know what he can do while playing down the middle. We've also that bigger body, and they found a way to play Dylan Walker and Tohu Harris bigger minutes when they were both in the same team. So I do think that Aaron will fill into that Tohu role, and I think they've kind of gone with who they think fits the Tohu uh, mold the better.
Yeah. Another point to add is that with Wade Egan being so injury prone, Aaron Clark, as soon as Egan's injured, will just slot into hooker. And depending on the severity of Egan's injury, will stay there for until he's back. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Aaron Clark. If I had to pick a mid-range hooker, it'd definitely be him, as the other ones don't really impress me too much. Interchange for the Warriors, we've just mentioned Dylan Walker. He's the only contender for Clark's minutes. I could see Dylan Walker probably eating up 40 of them, maybe even 35, 40, 50 even at the max. Hopefully he doesn't in the sake of Aaron Clark. But anyway, Jackson Ford, Dimitrik, and Lecker. All three options, not interested in it at all. Valmarga, we'll just wait and see if he gets any minutes at prop. Hopefully he does. That'd be great for him, but I just can't see it at the moment. So let's move on to the next game.
Yeah, I don't think the bench will affect many of those players, but yeah, moving on here, you got the Panthers now. Yeah, so talk us through it, John.
What are you saying?
So Dylan Edwards, I really don't see much value in him
Mm,
unless Cleary goes down. That is the only potential value I could see because then he would become the number one playmaker. But other than that, he is priced similar price range to Kalen Ponga. So I think if you go Ponga, even Tedesco, I'd go Tedesco over him too. I don't see much
yeah,
value in Dylan Edwards.
I do think Dylan Edwards is just Mr. Consistent. Doesn't do badly, but doesn't exceed expectations and do particularly well. He will average probably high 50s, but he won't drop to like a 40. He's just going to stay in the 50 range, and he probably won't see many games in the 70s. He just pumps out consistent high 50s, early 60s. So that's why with Ponga, you can get that ceiling of 80 to 90 point games. That's why I'm so keen on him. And the Knights rely on Ponga quite heavily, whereas the Panthers rely more on Cleary to do their work. Number two, Casey McLean, one who I was hoping Jesse McLean would get the spot, but his older brother has, and he's a bit more expensive, so I'd probably steer clear of that as a mid-range winger. The two centers pairings, Isaac Tungo and Luke Garner. What do you think of that, Will? Is there any interest there fantasy-wise?
None whatsoever in Luke Garner, but Tungo, yeah, we all know what he can average with Cleary next to him. I'm quite interested in Tungo, someone I probably won't start with at the start, but yeah, John, I think you're pretty interested in Tungo too with his average next to Cleary.
Yeah, I've always been a bit interested in Tunga. His game's really hit and miss though. He can score a 70 and then get three 20s, but you're relying on his big price.
Yeah, correct. Hopefully he stays fit and Cleary can feed him the ball, and then he we've seen him around 700k. He'll skyrocket in price if he just gets the ball he needs. But I'm moving on. Alamotti, one who people were seeing as a pod, but since he's on the wing, steer clear. One who now very keen on that Blaze Talangi has missed a spot and on the reserves. Jack Cole, one who should be, I reckon, in everyone's team. Do you personally own him at the moment? Well,
Yeah, I own him. I think I'll be playing him too. Looks good at 5'8" when playing there. Has scores quite well. Could get up to anywhere from 500k plus. Only thing is never played next to Cleary, so we don't really have much sample size. But I think yeah, I think Cleary will bring the best out of him and brings the best out of every 5'8" he's played with. At 250k, it's a no-brainer considering people were going to go with Blake Talongi at 458k. So why not go with Jack Cole and save 250k?
yeah, I do agree. We did look at the statistics for Cole. He averages 38, I think, at 5'8", with not much kicking done at all, and he still pumps out an average of 38. With he's a try assist machine. Hopefully, he can continue that form. Even if he doesn't and he bums out completely, he's only going to lose 20k maximum as that's minimum price. So it really is a no-brainer for Cole. And speaking of no-brainers, Nathan Cleary, one who should be in everyone's team, I reckon. Just lock him in there and don't worry about him. Just captain him every week, unless you're anti-potting him like John Hosking is. What do you think about Nathan Cleary, John?
Yeah, look, I it's not that I don't like Cleary. Like you can't go wrong with him. I just think that there's better halves out there at a cheaper price with more value than Nathan Cleary.
Who are you
Yeah,
going with?
there's definitely not better halves out there, but ones with better value, there definitely is. Well,
Yeah,
not
yeah, that's
maybe not
right. That's
even
what I meant to
definitely
say.
there is. But
Yeah. The only
yeah, if
other
you want
thing,
to anti-pod Cleary, what's that? Sorry, John.
the only other thing I was going to say about Jack Cole is I have heard news that the reason Blaze Talangi's not starting is because he's a defensive liability.
I
So I
agree.
think
Yeah, yeah,
as a long term 5'8", after Ivan gets his defense up to scratch, I think he will replace Jack Cole.
yes, probably correct. That's what you were talking about, Will, when I was talking about buying Talangi. He just misses too many tackles and relies on attacking stats, as you pointed out. But we'll move on. 8 and 9 and 10, no interest in all for me. Leota, Kenny, and Smith. Um, yeah, not they've always not been too fantasy relevant, and I think they'll continue to be that way. Number 11, one who I am very interested in, Scott Sorensen, who has beaten Isaiah Papali'i to the edge spot. Do you have any interest in Sorensen at all for you, Will?
Yeah, I am interested in Sorensen. I think he's a really good player and has averaged about 55 points with that dual position. Does come with a little bit of risk, but I do think, as John mentioned, that I think Liam Henry was injured, so Papali'i's come into his middle rotation where we predict Papali'i will probably get the edge spot back next week unless he plays well there. And yeah, do you have any interest in Scott at all, John?
Yeah, sorry, I lost connection there for a bit, but I do really like Scott Sorensen, although I do see him with a bit of risk. I don't see him holding his position,
Yeah.
but it is a risk, but it could have a high reward. We've seen what he can do there before, and he can pump out some big numbers in the second row.
Yeah, he has been a proven gun before, and hopefully the security's there for him. It is probably a case of a wait and see again with Scott. If he does go 2 weeks and he's still got the spot, then maybe you consider him even more than you are now. Number 12, Liam Martin, absolutely cracking player in real life, just not quite as fantasy relevant as you want him to be. Number 13, however, Isaiah Yo, one who has always been fantasy relevant for as long as I've known. Um, should get, based off that bench, should get 75 to 80 minutes. And the bloke never gets injured. He'll play every game, and his average just gets higher every year. I could see him averaging 65 this year. Do you have Isaiah Yo, Will? Because I certainly do.
Okay, so let's go and change this format a little bit of this video. So I do have Isaiah currently, but I am thinking of anti-potting him with Cameron McInnes, and the reason I'm thinking of doing that is because Cameron McInnes is a workhorse, so is Isaiah. But for me, Isaiah's ceiling's a 70, but I think we've seen Cameron consistently go to an 85, 90, where he works his ass off. When he plays 80 minutes, he can score 85 points, just makes pure tackles. Like he has the most tackles in an NFL game of 80, and just pure base for him. But I also don't really see who takes his minutes, as I think Adam will get 50 to 55, Kafusi gets 40, and then I think you have Ueli and Hazleton who fill in those minutes. But I don't really see if Talakai plays at lock or not, if he comes on for an edge. And Atkinson, I don't think he can play at 13. So I think Cameron could be getting close to 65 to 70 minutes at 13. Do you think there's any reason for me at all to antipod Yo with a Cameron McInnes and save 165K, John?
That's the big thing for me is you're saving a fair bit of money, and you can either bank it or upgrade a player that's maybe lacking on your bench or in your centers or something. Anti-potting Yo. It is interesting. We do know that Yo is so consistent, and we do know that Cameron McInnes probably has the higher ceiling. Is he as consistent as Yo, though? That's the only question I have. And we do know that Yo's role is set in stone. That's the only thing. But based off that Sharks bench, I just can't see anyone who's going to take McInnes's minutes. That's why I'm also keen on him. Um, Look, I don't think anti-potting Yo would be the worst thing in the world. Some people don't even own Yo. A lot of people don't own Yo. So, look, saving the cash would be the biggest thing for me. So I actually don't mind that move at all. Anyway, interchange for Penrith, we got Dane Laurie, Eisenhuth, Patea, and Papali'i, who's probably the only one you'd look at fantasy wise. Actually, not even anymore since he's on the bench. Hopefully, he can lock that spot in about a few weeks, but I personally reckon he's not up to speed with the Panthers system at the moment, and it might take him a few weeks to get into that starting role. Do you have any other comments about the Penrith team, Will or John?
Nah.
Nah.
No, not at all. All right, we'll move on. We got the Sharkies. William Kennedy, not fantasy relevant, unfortunately. Decent player, but just not fantasy relevant. Same with Stone Street and Ramian. Kale Iro, one who was a cash cow last year, just a bit too expensive this year, unfortunately. Along with Mulatalo, not fantasy relevant. Talk us through the halves pairings that the Sharkies have got here. Will?
Yeah, well, I do think John loves Nico Hines, so I'm gonna bring this one to him.
Yeah, I've always been a big fan of Nico. Although they are playing Trindle like a seven, he's doing the bulk of the kicking this season because he does have a better kicking game than Hines. So I think that'll significantly impacted Hines' price. And then I really don't see much value in. Oh, there could be a bit of value in Trindle at six, but there are a lot of better options out there. I think if you're going in, you're taking a high risk.
Yeah. Yeah, every time I've gone with Trindle, he's hurt me, so I'll be steering clear there. Forward pack is interesting for the Sharks. We've got Fanua Blake, one who I'm not really keen on whatsoever, just because of a minutes risk, I think. He's gone on record saying that he's likely to get less minutes this year, and I can see that happening, peaking probably around 55 minutes, if I'm honest. And when he gets 55 minutes, he only averages about mid 40s, which you just can't justify for a guy of his price. Do you have any interest in Fanua Blake at all, Will?
I did, but after hearing that, I don't. I think he's kind of need to try to score well, and yeah, not much else to be said.
I agree. Yeah, a bit too expensive when you've got such good options like McInnes, who we'll talk about later. Number nine, Blake Brayley, one who we've been asked about. Not a huge fan. There's just so many. The mid-tier hookers this year, other than Aaron Clark, just aren't great. So I'm not a fan of him really. Oregon Kafusi, same thing. Not a fan. Brighton Nickera, one who I had last year, so did you, John, for a while, and he really did well for us. But I just think he did almost too well last year, and he's a bit too expensive this year. That's why I'm just not going to go near him. along with Teague Wilton, the CEO of averaging 40 points. Um, but their edges for the Sharks, I'm just avoiding to start round one. But someone who I'm very interested in, we've mentioned before, Cameron McInnes. Talk me through it, Will.
Well, another I want to mention about McInnes is I know Blake Brayley doesn't get injured that much, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if Blake got injured that Cameron McInnes would come to hooker. We've seen him play hooker before and average very well at hooker. And yeah, I think if that happens too, you see McInnes will go there, and in game McInnes, if Blake Brayley does it to get injured, McInnes will go there too. But yeah, do you have any interest in McInnes at all, John?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely do have him. He's a very defensive player, so the bulk of his stats are pretty safe. You can't really go wrong with Cam McInnes. I think he'll pump out consistent numbers all year round.
This is probably the game you want him in too, because we've always said if McInnes gets the big minutes, I think he's going to score well, and I think this is the year he's going to score well. Jack Williams gone, which is someone that is they're really good. But another thing I like, and I think McInnes has to play big minutes, is he's the best ball player out of any of their forwards that isn't Blake Brayley. Talakai can't
Yep.
ball play, Ueli can't ball play, Hazleton can't ball play, Kafusi can't ball play, and Adam Fanua-Blake can't play. And with McInnes' history at nine, he's by far the much better ball player out of all of them, which I think in a day and age you need to be a ball playing lock. And you see what Yo does. He just racks them up ball playing. And that's another thing I like about McInnes, which is why I think he needs big minutes.
Yeah. Another thing to add with him, versing Penrith up again in Vegas, narrower fields, which means everything will be a bit in God, be in tighter, obviously, which means tackles will come thick and fast for McInnes. Another thing is Penrith are such an attacking side where even if the Sharks get flogged, McInnes still will do well as the Penrith will have most of the ball, which is better for attacking. I mean, better for tackles for McInnes. That's why I feel he's fixture proof. I don't think much can go wrong with him. He's just that consistent. Mate, he'll make 50 tackles a game and miss about one. That's how efficient he is. So if you want to, like you mentioned, Will, if you want to antipod Isaiah Yeo with Cameron McInnes, I don't see a problem with it at all. Um, Moving on to the interchange, Atkinson, Talakai, Hamlin, Uele, and Hazleton. Even better for McInnes because none of them are proven locks. Most of them are edges or props, and the half in Atkinson. What do you reckon about the bench setup for the Sharks, John?
Yeah, I don't really see much fantasy relevant players in
Yeah,
there. Nothing worth having a look
yeah,
at.
yeah, I agree. What about you, Will?
Yeah, I've already spoken about it. I don't see any big minutes for them. Maybe 30 for Hazleton and 25 for Ueli. Don't know where Talakai's going to play because he might play at lock. He is a pretty big body, but I don't see him going for much at lock. And yeah, Atkinson, I think he's just there for coverage.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, the bench shouldn't be too threatening to the buys in the Sharks, which is only really McInnes. Can't really see Fanua Blake being a buy. But anything else to add, Will or John, before we wrap up, since that's the second game of a round?
Nah, thanks for watching, guys. Yeah, really excited to come in. Will I be hosting a buy, hold, sell video tomorrow, a tip and multi of the round video, and on Thursday or Friday we'll be doing a team reveal with our
Yeah.
Vegas players. Yeah, DM's always open, and congratulations to who was the guy that won the jersey?
Xander Barton. Good on you,
Congratulations to
Xander. Thanks
Sander.
for joining.
Yeah, for winning his
He wants a
Panthers.
Penrith jersey, which it infuriates me a bit, but look, he won, so I got to give him a Penrith jersey. That's a shame.
Yeah, but
Anyway, thanks for
thanks for all
coming
your
on,
support,
John.
guys.
Oh yeah, thanks
Thanks
for
for
having
coming
me.
on, Johnny. Hopefully you can come on more in the future.
Thank
All
you.
right.
See you
Thanks,
guys.
guys. We'll wrap up there. Thank you.